But this seemed to be a really good time to explain that in my past, I've had the privilege of meeting Dr. Frida Lewis Hall, who is the Chief Medical Officer for Pfizer. She was giving a TED Talk. I don't know if you've ever heard of the TED Talk, but she's giving a TED Talk. And she was talking about this very thing, that the system is broken, that that everybody and everything is siloed, and that's now to that point. It doesn't make it bad, it just makes it the system. And so everybody tries to work in the system. So there's thousands and thousands of biorepositories for different things, and none of them work together or talk together. That's one of the outcomes of the PCORI. In other words, the federal government is realizing that the system is broken.
They're not federal.
Oh, okay, good. That's even better.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better.
But
PCORI is trying to say we need a national patient database. In my conversations with patients, albeit small, someone in the Bay Area, some girl, she said, you know, I feel better and I feel like I can go back to work now because of deep tissue massage. I talked to a gentleman, high-powered, high-profile guy in Chicago. He said, begin to eat protein. High-protein diet, able to get off all my meds, I feel great. What is it about this that one person tries one thing and it works and the other person tries the exact same thing and it doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera? So this participatory database talks about big data. You know, Walmart does big data, all of these other things, all these other places do big data. If you get enough data in and you can analyze it appropriately, and I'm not going to go any further because it's for Suzanne. In other words, we've taken all this into account in the predictive stage. So you get enough big data, you run it through an analysis process appropriately, you're going to develop theories that lead to therapies. And you're going to be able to subset our particular patient population, because we are. Some people do this, some people do that. Anyway, back to Frida Lewis Hall. She was giving this TED Talk and she said, the system is broken. Everything is siloed. We're all working in our little academician state to where, you know, all those papers and all those billions of dollars of basic research that's funded by the NIH primarily, our government, and some people do research just to write more papers to get more research money to do more research. So that's their end, is just getting more money to do more papers. And so that's why you have so much, and they never share. When I was with PKD Foundation, the University of Kansas had put an intellectual property patent around something, and while the pharmaceutical people could develop a therapy, they would have to pay University of Kansas millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, so they said, we're not even going to do it. So they actually kept people from it. Now, our biobank, we're opening it up to people. So we own it to keep it open, not own it to keep it closed. And that's not a bad business model. I mean, you gotta do it. But we want to do that. Anyway, again, second time, back to Frida Lewis Hall. She said there are two reasons. She said at one point in time in our recent history, there was, in fact, a time where we went from no therapies to viable therapies on the market in 7 years. Does anybody know when that was? HIV/AIDS. And she said there were two reasons why. She said there are two reasons. Number one, collective intent. That was, and what she defined that as is the fusion of thought that comes when people rally together behind a common cause. The urgency, the sense of urgency that comes in that fusion of thought behind a common cause. So collective intent. And she said the second reason was the patient advocate. She said that which was the individual patient, which had been shoved to the side and all these other research modalities finally didn't just come to center stage, but was actually the key to discovery and to getting therapies on the market. And so those two things, she said, need to happen again in the research modality. And that's everything we say today is going to be following that same modality, where we have a fusion, that collective intent. That's why we're talking to groups that are groups. You know, they're not, I mean, you are our constituents, but aren't we all in it together anyway? And so let's use the power of our problem to solve our problem.
That's great, because building on what some of the questions that you've been asking and what Suzanne's talking about is we're a little support group in California, and we're trying to be participants in this process. So if we can donate to blood samples and be part of the study, we're there.
Yeah.
You know, we will do it.
That's right.
You know, we'll do it.
And this, the participatory platform that we would be talking about, either through Patients Like Me or something like that, all of those things are absolutely essential. We're putting the patient in the center. That's what our logo means. The patient's in the center of the research that we do.
We're about at the point of the, do you want to talk a little longer? Do you want to stop here?
Let me just show you then, kind of now that I've got this working. This is what the email would look like when you click on the URL. It would bring you to this secure platform where you basically just answer some questions, and then you hit submit, and then it goes into the database at Vanderbilt. And again, when needed, on demand, depending on the type of study, we would collect a sample, whether it be a blood sample. And again, not all blood is created equally. It depends on the type of investigator, what assay they're using, what type of tube we use to collect. So all of that is super duper important for blood collection. We can collect other types of samples like spit. These are the affordable samples. We haven't had that study yet that does the cerebrospinal fluid or
is there a website to go to, to sign up on that form?
I have to, the first step is paper.
Okay.
We have to get your John Hancock on a piece of paper.
If friends and neighbors are important for this bank, should each of us take some papers? So could we do that so we can get other people?
That would be so awesome. That would be so awesome. Except I didn't know how many people were going to be here, so I only had 15 copies.
Yeah, we actually have the ability to mail out paperwork to our members and say, here's the study, here's the biobank, here's the first step.
I'll send you the PDF then.
Okay.
And we can make copies.
And you can make copies.
Yeah.
You know, Suzanne, one thing you probably don't need here anymore. You know all this stuff, but Dr. Montoya was running some studies out of Stanford and was looking for blood donations in California, in his area. A lot of Sacramento people were like, yeah, we're there. And they basically came back to us and said, well, no, we don't really need you. We've got enough in the Bay Area. We need Bay Area controls. But it was just an example of here we were willing to drive, people wanted to drive to him and give him blood samples, and it turned out he didn't really need them, but just to show you our impetus here is to help out and so be part of these things.
And really, the most important part, ultimately, for our biobank is when a farmer comes to us and says, we have a clinical trial that we're doing, we need 200 patients. And then they're going to say, oh my gosh, you have 2,000 in there? And then we can query that and select the 200 that best fit, no matter where they are, and you participate in that clinical trial. The problem with biobanks, like Jose's or like ours, is that again, the studies that are being conducted are often very, very specific, and they have very specific inclusion and exclusion criteria, sometimes even geographic requirements. Age requirements, yes, there's all these types of requirements. So I've had a lot of people say, I signed up for the biobank in 2010 for that GSK study, and I didn't, I wasn't included. And it's like, Yeah, I'm sorry, you didn't meet their criteria.
And your other conditions can throw you out immediately.
Your other conditions can throw you out.
And your
I mean,
medication.
we just did a survey that showed that only 15% of 1,500 people or 150 people said that CFS was their, ME CFS was their only condition.
Oh, but CFS makes other conditions.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the more people you get, though, the better it's going to, the more
That's
odds
it,
go up,
yeah,
right?
that's it. You might not ever end up being in a study, but you might be the reason that pharma comes to the biobank and uses that population to enroll in a clinical trial. Ultimately, if there's a discovery, it will apply possibly to you. You know, if there's a treatment, it will apply to you, even if you weren't one of the participants in the study.
Let's roll. Let's roll.
Is it okay if we take a break here?
Yes,
Is that
let's
okay?
do.
All right, let's take 10 minutes. How about that? And stretch our legs and exercise our feet and use the potty.